Hi, I'm Tamara Lackey, and on this episode of reDefine show for Adorama TV, I speak with Jose Rosado, and we discuss his writing, his photography, and his podcasting, but mostly we talk about the vulnerability, insecurity, and depressive nature, often, of being a creative. He created an organization called Creatives Against Depression to open up the conversation, to make it less quiet, and I think you'll find it really interesting. Check it out. Hi, Jose, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Good, thank you for joining me. We're here in Union Square, New York City. We're not literally in the square, but we're right next to the square.
It's 5 feet away.
Yes, yes. And you drove in from?
Well, I was actually in Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia. Tell us a little bit about your background in photography.
Sure. I always appreciated photography, never ever picked up a camera until my senior year of college.
Okay.
I took this intro to digital photography course as like a free elective.
Right.
And I really liked it.
You're like, hey.
And I was like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I graduated, and for my graduation, my parents got me a D50.
Nice.
And
Nikon.
I took the whole course with an HPR 707. Did you remember they make digital cameras?
No.
Yeah, they did
No.
for a little while. Yeah. And then I got the D50. And I was already committed to go to grad school. I was going to go to Drexel to get my MBA. And I figured, okay, I'll just do this to make money while I'm in grad school.
Yeah.
And, you know, then I got a real job.
Yeah.
And then I graduated in 08.
Okay.
So it wasn't a great time to get a
right,
real job
yeah.
in New York, no less,
Yeah.
you know. So I kept falling back to photography. And what I thought would be, 6 months ended up being 6 years.
Yeah.
You know, I did it full time for 6 years, and it was great. When I graduated, I quit the job at the studio and moved to Philadelphia.
Okay.
And I had nothing.
Yeah.
So I was horribly depressed.
Well,
new city. Yeah, right. New city.
But
new
you're not throwing that out as I was depressed, like genuinely.
No, I've suffered with that since I was 14.
Right.
And it got real dark for 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah. And luckily I had photography, and I just said, you know what? I'm going to put out feelers and resumes and apply to places, but I'm going to put all my effort into photography because this is the only thing that's paying you right now.
Right.
And I started treating it like a business and approaching it with an MBA kind of mindset.
Yeah.
And it ended up doing fairly well.
Right. And then was that part of like coming out and personally dealing so much with depression? Was that part of your kind of movement into, because you created the Creatives Against Depression, right? Yeah.
That was something that, so this all kind of went along with the emergence of social media, right? So back then when I was starting out, it was like MySpace and Facebook was kind of there, right? Yeah. So it went from that.
I forgot about MySpace. Yeah.
Yeah, be sure you delete your profile because they can still find it. It went from that to all of a sudden, like social media was a business entity. You had to treat it like it was for your business. And for years, I saw so many friends who, like you, were speaking around the world, traveling, had highlight reels like Chase Jarvis, right?
Right.
And I'd talk to them, and I'd be like, how's it going? I see all the stuff you're doing. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And they're like, it sucks. I'm depressed. Like, I don't want to pick up a camera.
Yeah.
I don't want to shoot anymore, but I can't say that.
Right.
Because I got this sponsorship and this sponsorship and this commitment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that sucks.
The disconnect.
They're like, how come you can't be open about it?
Right.
So you're just, you're alone.
Yeah.
And you can't acknowledge to anybody for fear of losing clients and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And over the years, the people I would talk to got more and more and more of those kind of stories.
Yeah.
And
also like the sense of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like if you're already feeling that low, do you really want to open yourself up to sharing that?
Right.
It's funny, I was talking even last night, so just finished a gallery exhibit here, which was...
Looks great. These images are awesome.
Thank you. But I was talking last night to a photographer, and I was sharing how I was going to meet with you. And he's like, are you going to talk about the fact that we can do things like this, but then we drop hard? And I was like, yeah, I think that's what we're going to talk about because, sometimes you feel like it's just, I got a lot of energy, I don't have a lot of energy. And sometimes it's a lot more than that, And it's hard to recognize.
When I thought about it, and I was talking to someone, a psychiatrist, and I said, you know, do you feel this? Do you feel this? I'm like, yeah, but you're just talking about being a full-time creative.
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
highs.
yeah.
I'm moving, I'm going.
Yeah,
I'm
there's such a cycle.
100 miles an hour. Then there's that low.
Yeah.
And I get depressed and I get angry and I get bitter. Yeah. But then as soon as something comes.
And lonely.
I strike. Yeah. Because you know how it is, right? Strike while the iron's hot. Yeah. You never know when it's going to stop.
Right.
There's that scary part of it, you know? Yeah. So I said, you're just explaining a professional photographer. Right. Like, that's literally what this is. You
call it bipolar, I call it photography.
Yeah, I call it my career as a professional artist. Yeah, as a creative, you know? Yeah. And it messed with me, because like, then I started reading articles where they're saying, is bipolar, you know, something that skews more towards creatives? It's one of those things that, like you mentioned, it's been around forever. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the media stuff you mentioned happened when I got laid off. Huh. So I got laid off. I had a job as working for a New York company, and I was working remotely, so I could still do photography. I could still travel and do all that kind of stuff. And I got laid off in 2014. I went from being the single guy in the city to now I had 2 kids I'm raising. I'm in the suburbs with a house. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the whole thing changed. Yeah. And when I lost my job, it was the same frustrations that I had when I graduated in 08.
But now compounded.
Oh yeah. I kind of had like a breaking point, and I sat my parents and Jessica down, and I said, I can't, like, give me 1 month. I want 1 month to not apply to jobs. Yeah. I just want to do my art. So I started writing. And what was different was, years past, when I started blogging, it was like behind the scenes, right? Mm-hmm. It was like BTS, here's some shots of the setup, here's what we got for the final product. Writing. Right, it's boring, and I hated it years ago. Yeah. So I said, you know what, let me do something different. Right. And around that time, like you mentioned the vulnerability, I started realizing, hey, like, I'm in this struggle, I'm frustrated, I'm thinking that I'm employable, and I'm passionate, and I'm professional. Like, I really want just a break. And I started writing about that. I started writing about my emotions, what made me feel, all the vulnerabilities, and everything like that. And all long form. You know, everything was like 1,200 words or more. Right. And 2 weeks in, I got a job offer to write for F-Stoppers. Okay. Yeah. So I was like, hold on a second. In 2 weeks' time of doing my own thing, I got more progress. Out what you most wanted to do. Right. Yeah. Than I did for 8 months going full tilt. Yeah. So I said, all right, let me keep going. Yeah. And the writing started getting better, and I started actually picking up writing clients and getting paid to do it. And it was, you know, awesome. I started writing for Chimera Lighting, for Borrow Lenses, and all this stuff. And I said, all right, I had the idea of a podcast for a while. We're at PPE, and I started the same thing. I started saying, okay, who can I interview? Who do I know? Right. And I started hanging out with all my friends. And Doug Saunders was one of the first people. Zach Sutton was another one. And then we're talking to Doug, and walks by Jeremy Cowart. Yeah. Then Jeremy Cowart came on the next day. Pratik Naik, the retoucher, his girlfriend Bella. And I started realizing, in one day, we talked to all these amazing people. Right. And that night, I went to, who was it? It was the Black and White Party. You ever been to that one?
I don't know. It's such a whirlwind.
Yeah. So I went there.
Was everyone wearing black and white?
No, they just call it the Black and White Party. I think it's by RGG. Okay. I think. And so I went there. So I started talking to some people, and then I bumped into some people from Creative Live. Yep. Cool. Started talking to them. And in walks Chase Jarvis. And we started chatting, and I said, listen, I started this new podcast called The Angry Millennial. You know, he goes, dude, just stop. He goes, I'm in. You know, like. What's the Angry Millennial mean? So the Angry Millennial. I mean, the words, but what is it? What is the point of it? So you know what it is? Everyone asks me, is it like a Lewis Black thing? Or are you just screaming the entire time, right? And you've been on it, right? Like it you didn't scream at me. It was minimal screaming. Yeah, it was actually quite nice. You know what it is? It was the hang-ups. Like, I never knew I was a millennial. Like I said, when I graduated, people started talking about our generation is a generation of failed institutions. You know, first adult children of divorce, you know, realizing college is not all it's cracked up to be, you know, the economy collapsing, and then you have the gig economy, you know, where no one's a full-time employee anymore. Right. And it was very frustrating for me because I'm old enough that I'm like on the cusp of Gen X and millennials. Yeah. And I sit there and say, I want to do all the things that Gen X people do, But as a millennial, I graduated at a time where there's nothing,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and it was very frustrating. And I was very angry for years.
Right.
And that was something I had to make peace with,
Right.
you know, and kind of let go
Yeah.
and stop being so angry and
Yeah.
just say, hey, here I am, you know, essentially this is a whole period, right? I'm
Right.
doing all my own thing again.
Yeah.
Which for me, I did for years and I was over it. You know, I
Right.
was like, I don't want that feast and famine for my kids.
Right.
So I was like, I want something steady, and my art's my art, no longer like a job.
Right.
And it, you know, here I am doing that, and I did it for a year. We did 100 episodes.
Right.
And it was awesome, and we
Yeah.
talked to amazing people. You know, you were on there,
Yeah,
Dixie
yeah.
Dixon, everyone in the photography world,
Right.
and then we went out and did like comedians and film people, and it was a
Yeah.
great mix of entrepreneurs. People are sharing these things that are so profound, and I started really thinking about it, and a lot of emotional intelligence played into it.
Yeah.
But I started looking at like the breakdown of an interview, and I said 2/3 of it was long form, right?
Yeah,
So it's an
yeah,
hour long.
yeah.
So 2/3 of it are talking about you, your business, what's going on.
Sure.
Shout this person out,
Yeah.
shout this company out, and then with like the last third,
You start talking about things
we
that
start
matter.
going into deeper things, and they're all set questions. So I
Yeah.
asked these same questions to everybody,
Okay.
and what people shared was huge.
Right, right.
And that's when it started going more towards a mental health thing. You know, talking about vulnerability, about anxiety, about depression, and those sort of things. And I kind of wanted to go more in that direction.
Right.
And around that time, you know Dave Mira? He was an extreme athlete. You
Yeah.
know, he did everything you could think of.
Right.
He was I think he still is the most gold medal winning X Games athlete
Okay.
of all time.
Yeah.
So I met him years ago shooting a rally event in New Jersey. And I had grown up watching this guy. He was like maybe 5-10 years older than me, so I grew up watching him. And to meet him was great. And I got to meet him and Tanner Faust and Travis Pastrana and all those guys. And he was the nicest one out of all of them.
Right.
And he was on the podium that day. So when I went to go shoot the podium, I noticed he had 2 little girls. And I didn't know he had kids.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's so cool. I didn't know he had kids. And that was it. I didn't, fast forward 5-6 years, and now I'm in, Baltimore. My whole life has changed.
Right.
And he took his own life, and it made me angry.
Right.
It made me angry to feel like, he had no other way out. To
Like the
feel
isolation.
right.
Yeah.
The
The self-imposed.
Yeah,
Often.
and it was one of those things that I said, you know what? I gotta do more. So I started the site, crazydantsuppression.com, then the blog, then it became a Medium publication. We also I teamed up with Mickey Coachella, who was or is a comedian and a radio DJ down in Baltimore, and we started doing weekly support groups, so mental health
Wonderful.
support groups, because we
Yeah.
realized there are none. Literally,
Yeah,
are none. If you suffer from anything else,
Right.
alcohol abuse, addiction, cancer, grief,
Yeah.
loss, anything, stress, there's a support group,
Right.
but not for mental health.
And I think one of the most bizarre things about all that is the reason, that we talked about stigma, especially the history and why that might contribute to current, societal stigma. But also there is the self-imposed quiet that isn't always, I don't want to talk. Sometimes it's, I don't want to bring people down around me, or I feel like there's an expectation of me to be this, like for work and this and that. But then there's also, this sucks, but I'm going to get past it.
Yep.
And so you don't treat it like a real issue
Right.
until you're, 5, 10, 15 years down the road.
Right.
And you've lost so much of that time because you keep thinking optimism.
Right.
Like you can be really depressed and also feel like you're going to get out someday.
And what's even worse is it's true. There is episodic, depressional episodes, right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing where it could be just a rough time,
Yeah,
And for me, for a long
yeah.
time, that's what it was. It was
Right.
I moved
The
and had no
situation,
friends,
yeah.
right? I lost my job. I couldn't get work. I lost my job again. So things that people would be like, dude, that's totally understandable.
Right.
But at the same time, then I look back and realize it was kind of steady there the entire time.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
didn't acknowledge it.
Yeah. Which is so easy to do, and so common.
Oh yeah.
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 Well, how can we get more people involved in this?
So we still have the site and the blog and the Medium publication. So if anyone wants to be a part of like the blog and start writing articles, or even just literally finding articles online and sharing them.
Yeah, just curating.
We're always looking for new writers, contributors. We are still doing the talks at colleges.
Yeah.
I started just now, recently, I accepted an adjunct position at the University of Baltimore. So we're going to try and do one there and one at MICA in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, again, like it's a huge need.
Right.
You know, so it's not just the creatives part, but realizing also we're obviously more susceptible to it. But we started one called Together We Got This. So it's more of like an open umbrella to the public.
Right.
And then we say, hey, if you also happen to be a creative, and we know those woes.
Right.
You sit there and say, it's constantly a struggle between am I sick or am I not? Am I, just a loner sometimes, or am I really escaping and isolating myself?
Yeah.
And then you couple that with, I'm really anxious, but I'm really ambitious, and I gotta fly and do this and do that and do these things.
That's a mental gymnastics.
All the time.
Yeah.
It never turns off.
Right, right.
And that can be a lot.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I'm guessing a lot of people who are watching this can understand. They should go to creativesagainstdepression.com. Oh, you went with the .com.
I did.
And then the other site, you said Together We Got This?
TogetherWeGotThis.com as well.
And then
I'm sorry, .org.
.org, okay. And where can they go to find more about you and your work?
If you go to JoseRosadoPhoto.com.
Okay.
So JoseRosado.
Okay, and on the social medias?
Let's see. Instagram at Jose Rosado Photo, Twitter at Jose Rosado Photo, and on Facebook it's Jose Rosado Photography, and Creatives Against Depression as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's great seeing you again.
Yeah. Thank you, Jose, for talking so openly about something we all need to be talking about more. Check us out here next time on Adorama TV, and don't forget, you can subscribe.